it would not be acceptable. It would not. It's not acceptable now. One person isn't acceptable, let alone perhaps 100,000. So we're going to rebuild it. We're going to rebuild it back as fast as we can. I think we're going to have an incredible transition, but transition leads to fourth quarter. Third quarter, I call it transition. We'll start to see it. It's already happening. People want to come back. I think everybody in this room realizes we have to come back. Otherwise, you have a broken country. You'll never be able to do it again. You'll never be able to build this miracle. It's a miracle what we did, what all of us did, and what many people before us did. You'll never be able to build it again. The people want to come back. You see what's going on at state houses all over the country. They want to come back. I think some people don't want it really to come back for political reasons, which is sick. But the people, the real people, the people that want this country to be great and great again, we can say, they want to get back. And we're going to have embers, we're going to have fires, we're going to have things to put out, and we'll put them out. We learned a lot, things that we had no idea 2 months ago. We've learned a lot over the last couple of months, and we're going to do a job like nobody's seen before. And I spoke with Angela Merkel today. I spoke with Prime Minister Abe of Japan. I spoke with many of the leaders over the last 4 or 5 days. And so many of them, almost all of them, I would say all of them, not everybody want to admit it, but they all view us as the world leader, and they're following us. You look at what we've done with ventilators. We started, we had no ventilators. Nobody thought in terms of a ventilator. It's like, and I say it all the time, it's like building a car, and other countries don't have ventilators. And we became so successful at ventilators and building this very complex machine, very expensive machine, but very, very complex to have it right, to do it right. Highly computerized, very technologically significant. So we built, and we built, and we built. And they took other factories for totally other purposes. And now we have 9 factories that are throwing out ventilators at numbers that nobody can believe. It was really, there's not been anything like that since the Second World War, where we did the same thing with other types of product. And we're giving thousands and thousands away to other countries that are people dying because they don't have ventilators and they're not equipped to do what we did. So we're giving thousands and thousands of these ventilators away to many countries that have suffered greatly. Italy, France, Spain, so many countries. And Nigeria called. Tremendous problems in Nigeria. Tremendous problems all over. And so they're very happy. In addition to that, we're building stockpiles for ourselves. So if this disaster ever happens again, we have plenty. Some of the governors, we're working along great with almost all of the governors, but some of them, they needed ventilators. Now it's testing, and we have testing at a level that nobody's ever done before. Every leader tells us the same thing. In fact, they want to know, what are we doing? But you don't hear that from the media. You never hear that. But what's happened with testing is incredible. So as of this morning, we've done 8.5 million tests. And yesterday alone, in one day, we did 300,000 tests. And that's an incredible tribute. Now they have the test where it takes you 5 minutes. That was a test that didn't even exist. Everything had to go to a lab. It would be sent to the lab, so it takes a day, and then it takes another day. But it takes you 3, 4, 5 days if they do a good job. Now you do a test, boom, and you have it in 5 minutes, and nobody ever thought a thing like that was even possible. That's the Abbott Laboratories, but now we have other competitive tests even with that. So what we've done has been incredible. We're going to continue to do it. We're going into transition, and I call it transition to greatness. It's going to be transition to greatness, because we're going to do something very fast, and we're going to have a phenomenal year next year. Third quarter transition, fourth quarter is going to be good. There's tremendous pent-up demand, and next year we're going to have a phenomenal year. And with that, I think maybe I'd like to go around the room, and you could introduce yourself and say a few words, and then after that the media will leave and we'll have some discussions among ourselves, okay? Please, why don't we start? think I know this gentleman, huh? And by the way, Kevin has done some job. He should have had the job a long time before he had it. But that's okay. We have a great man, and he's going to be, hopefully, a great Speaker of the House. We got to get him there. If we get him there, and when I say hopefully we're going to win, because I have no doubt he'll be a great Speaker of the House. We don't have to hope about anything. He's done a fantastic job. Kevin?
Well, Mr. President, I do want to say one thing. As you and the First Lady were out there honoring what transpired 75 years ago, that we had to end the tyranny of what Hitler was doing throughout Europe. We now battle something that is like a war. That this is a virus that came from a distant land that we did not invite. But just as we had to transform our country then and unite, that leadership you're providing is doing just that. As you talk about ventilators, gearing up, testing, more than 1.7 million in 1 week. The ingenuity of this country will solve this problem. And we will not just solve and get a vaccine for us, but for the rest of the world. I do want to thank you, coming from California. I know I have a blue state, I know I have a governor, but the way you've worked together, watching you send those Navy ships to New York and to California, build those hospitals in a time of need, I do want to thank you on behalf of everyone in California.
Thank you
for the
very
work
much.
you've done.
Great state. Thank you very much. Elise?
I think they'll turn it on.
Thank you, Mr. President, for all of the support for New York State. This has been a true partnership, and the administration has stepped up, whether it's ventilators or building the Javits Center, which was tremendously important. My district in upstate New York, people are eager to get back to work safely. Our tourist businesses, our hotels have been devastated. So as we talk about this transition, making sure that we allow our small businesses to get back to work safely is so incredibly important. Also, our farmers. Thank you to Secretary Perdue for stepping up. We have dairy farmers in our district who are going through a crisis, but we know that you support the farmers, and we're appreciative of all of your work for New York. And I know you've worked effectively with Democrats and Republicans in New York State, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And so for the farmers, you know, we gave $12 billion 2 years ago from China through tariffs because they were targeting our farmers. And then we gave $16 billion, and this year we're giving $19 billion to the farmers. And that's more money than they've ever even thought about. And it's keeping them in a position where, really a position of strength, but they deserve it, what they've gone through for 18, 19 years. This isn't a new phenomenon. This is for years they've been ripped off. So we're taking care of our farmers. Thank you very much, Elise.
Thank you.
Dan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for working every single day. You know, Speaker Pelosi would have the America believe that we can only show up to Congress to vote once every 3 weeks. Of course, that's not true. We could be working every single day, just like this administration is, and I appreciate what you've done. Appreciate working with us to protect our energy industry. You know, America is in real dire straits with oil prices the way they are. We're deeply worried about that in Texas, and your administration's been excellent to work with on that front. We understand how important energy independence is to our nation. Texas is reopening, and I think it can be a model for the rest of the country as we step out of a retreat and move to actually confront this virus head on and get people back to work.
Well, it's interesting, Dan, because oil prices are now going up and gasoline prices are going down. That's like the best combination I've ever heard. So our millions of people in the energy business, I think, is going to be, you know, that's moving up. But you look at those gasoline prices and they're really coming down. So I don't think I've ever seen a combination like that. It's going to be very good. A lot of good things happening in energy. Jared, you should say something because you headed up our whole ventilator problem that this country had. The cupboard was bare when we took it over. People don't realize it, they don't want to say it, but the cupboard was bare, that we had nothing. And I could say that for the military too. Dan would know that almost better than anybody, and the folks that are so much and so well versed on military, but our military cupboard was bare also. We had obsolete equipment, we had old equipment, and now we have we've never been in a position like this. We have the best equipment in the world, all made in the United States. But Jared, why don't you give a little talk on what we did with the ventilators and how that just became such an incredible story. And we're doing the same thing with testing, and we're pretty close to a point where we're equally as good. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. On ventilators now, the good news is that every day the balance that we have in the stockpile that the country has continues to grow. Initially, it was very scary in that we had a lot of states requesting numbers that could not be supplied. And a lot of you were very helpful at getting the local hospitals in your districts to give the actual data to the federal government, because the president wanted to make sure that anybody in this country who needed a ventilator would get a ventilator. He saw what was happening in Italy, where people were dying in hospitals and not able to get the care they needed. And the president said, I don't want that to happen in America. Deploy every resource that we have, get all the intel we have, and let's do our best to try to make it work. And we were able to make it work thanks to your leadership. And then what we were also able to do is use the Defense Production Act at the president's urging, and we were able to contract 11 different ventilator companies. Last year, America made about 30,000 ventilators. This year, we'll make about 150,000 in a 4-month period. And so we're in a place right now where we're doing well. A lot of our allies, the countries that are friendly with America, are starting to get ventilators from us, and we have more than enough to take care of all the American citizens. So it's been a great success story. And on testing, the numbers continue to grow. We have all the supplies that we need to do it. We've now educated all the governors. We have over 5,000 testing machines in the city. We've had the commercial sector through the public-private partnerships that the president had us lead. Those have now identified over 5,000 machines. We've done DPA on swabs, so we're making a ton of swabs. We have reagents. We have transport media. We've been working with all the governors to help them with the National Guard on how to better collect samples. And so we're seeing those numbers starting to really rise. And when you look at the number that America's done relative to any other country, we're 2 to 3 times the next number. So on an absolute basis, the job that you've led on that has been absolutely tremendous. And that's giving the tools to America to start opening up these counties and allowing Americans to get back to work.
Thank you, Jared. You've done a great job. Someday people are going to appreciate it. They say, oh, he's a relation. Well, he's a relation. If he wasn't a good relation, I'd get him out of here so fast. Sometimes we have a problem, Louis. I say, get Jared on it. Great job, Jared.
Thank you.
Smart guy. So here's another smart guy. So Devin, I thought about Devin more over the last couple of days than anybody else, because this guy would come in and he'd tell people what was going on, and nobody believed it because it was not believable. It wasn't true that they would be doing a takeover of a presidency illegally and all of the illegality that was going on. And he was the first one, our superstar Jim, and all of us will admit this guy was just, he wouldn't stop. Devin Nunes, he wouldn't stop. He saw it before anybody, and you deserve a medal. You deserve the equivalent of Pulitzer Prizes. They ought to take the Pulitzer Prize away from all of these phony journalists that got a Pulitzer Prize, and they were wrong. They were wrong on everything, and now they've been proven wrong. I saw where Clapper, not a smart guy. How do you have not a smart person heading up intelligence? How does that work, right? You have a man who is not smart, and he heads up intelligence, and that's possibly what happened. They ran away with it, but he knew what was going on, and I'd watch him on television. He'd say the worst things. And now I know why Shifty Schiff, dishonest, corrupt politician, why this guy didn't want these papers exposed. Because all these people said under oath, where they go to jail if they lie, they were totally, no, I didn't see any collusion with Russia. I saw nothing. No, I said, but he was on television before and after saying there was massive collusion, like Putin was my best friend. We had no calls to Russia. We had no calls from Russia for years. And all of a sudden, we have this great friendship. And by the way, getting along with Russia is a great thing. Getting along with Putin and Russia is a great thing. And stuff like this makes it impossible. And that leads to very bad things, very bad things. But I have to say that Devin was incredible. He understood it. He understood that it was a hoax before anybody else knew what was happening. And then I have to say, the people in this room took over and did a hell of a job with you, right? They had guts. They had guts like nobody's ever seen before. I want to thank you on behalf of our country, and I'd like to have you say a few words.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and it's unfortunate what you had to live through for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
From your campaign to your presidency, and I appreciate your kind words, and for all the folks in here who have worked so hard getting to the bottom of the Russia hoax situation. Let me just talk a little bit about the situation our country's in now. I know you're well aware. We've had 6-7 weeks here of keeping people inside their homes. We've learned a lot about this virus. There's still a lot more we need to learn. We need to learn what our friends over in Asia were doing the time that this virus was taking off and the issues with the World Health Organization. And I believe with your new pick, with John Ratcliffe, member of the House Intelligence Committee, member from Texas, he's going to do a great job getting to the bottom of this, and I think leading the intelligence agencies through what have been some pretty dark times over the last few years.
And I think we should say Rick Grinnell has done a great job, too. In fact, John Ratcliffe called up 2 days ago. He said, you know, I'm really looking forward to this, but I don't know if I can top the guy we have in there right now. And he was, he's going to do a phenomenal job, but Rick Grinnell has been incredible.
I mean,
Before that, we had an empty seat. But Rick Grinnell, what he's done, even Louis would admit that. And I saw Rick yesterday walking in with thousands of pages of paper into the Justice Department. We didn't see that before, did we, Louis, huh? Rick Grinnell did a great job, and John is going to be phenomenal. Please.
Well, Mr. President, what we expect and the American people expect is transparency from our law enforcement agencies, and I think we're well on our way to getting that. I want to also thank you for bringing us back here to show the American people that we can be here and do our work. The Democrats are cowering at home right now. And it makes no sense because we've learned so much. I can understand for the first few weeks, but we're learning. We have ventilators. We're learning new ways how to treat this virus. And if we're expecting, as you know, you've been in my district. It's the San Joaquin Valley of California, heavy agricultural area. My folks have been going to work. And because they have to feed this country along with a lot of the folks around here. And you know, if we expect the guys that are cutting meat or working at a grocery store, working in these packing plants, if we expect them to go to work, we ought to go to work as members of Congress. And I'll just leave it at that.
I will say I got you all of your permits necessary from the federal government for water. You know, we throw millions of gallons a day of water into the Pacific Ocean that comes from up north. And when I saw Devon, I say, how come those fields are all barren? They're beautiful land, all barren, brown. And then they'll have a little patch like this, a little patch in a corner, or a little patch on one side, and it's beautiful green. You could see it was so, and I said, how come so much of it, 90%, 95%, it looks like a desert, and you have this. He said, we don't have water. I said, you mean you have a drought? This was a long time ago we met, right? Right at the beginning, before I got elected. And I said, you mean you have a drought? He said, no, we don't have a drought. We send millions of gallons of water out to the ocean to protect a very, well, I'll never say anything's unimportant. I think everything's important. To protect, go ahead, what's the name?
The smelt, Delta smelt. Yeah.
So you have a Delta smelt that's not doing well. It's getting no water, and it will do a lot better if it had water. But they send millions and millions of it. Is that seriously, is that the only reason? That's the reason they send it out there?
Yeah, that and,
for the Delta
that and salmon, yes.
It's
So the
incredible.
farmers are very thankful for recognizing the important work that you've done, not only in San Joaquin Valley, but all over the country. And I'll just say, that's why they're out working, and I think we should be working. And I'm
Well,
glad
you know,
brought us here.
with the water, though, I said, so what has to happen? Well, you need approvals from Congress, from this, you need all sorts of approvals, but you need it from Commerce more importantly than anything. I got every approval for you, and you got a lot of the state approvals done through Kevin and yourself and others. All you need now is a signature of the governor. And those millions of gallons of wasted water going into the Pacific, that's like a drop in the bucket. Doesn't mean anything to the Pacific.